from this. Hello, Carolina.
Hi, Yoshiko. Nice to hear you.
Nice to see you on the screen. Thank you very much for your time today. I learned that you are working for a Japanese company, and I thought that it will be very useful for the readers to share your experience.
Thank you so much, Yoshiko. Yes, that's the idea. I would like to share my experience, and hopefully it can help to the others that are listening this. Um, well, I'm a Mexican attorney working for a Japanese company with global operations. And I have learned through the years that to be successful, you need to have English skills, business skills, and cross-cultural skills.
I see.
When I joined the company, I was very young. I was 23 years old, just graduated from the law school,
Yes,
and I have a little experience because I have my master's degree in Europe, and I understood in a very young age that there were some cultural differences that define the way of communication with the others. But when I started at that age working for a Japanese company, for me it was like intuition to understand that I need to behave in a different way, that the way that I was relating with my connationals. But after several years, I had this cross-cultural training in Japan. And at that time, it was a milestone in my professional career because I could understand the fundamentals of these differences and why my boss at that time was behaving towards me in a certain way that for me was not so clear. But it was
interesting point.
Yes, and basically, I understood three big differences between the. One of them is the educational fundamentals of the Japanese education system and the Western education system. Why we as a kids, we are pushed to challenge the teacher, to challenge our parents, and that's not appropriate in Japanese culture.
That's a great point. That is.
It was very enlightening when I understood that. It was perceived in a different way.
I see.
And could be also considered as rude, the way.
That is right.
That is right. But one of the main points that I learned when I had this cross-cultural training course is the sense of the objectivity. Because when we communicate with different culture people, we make this assessment according with our own values without understanding the differences, all the background, cultural, geographical, religious background of each one to understand these different perceptions.
That's a very important point.
That's correct. Then when I understood that, it was really like the light coming at the end of the tunnel to understand. Yes, it was very interesting. Sorry?
That's a very beautiful expression.
Exactly, because that was my feeling. I was acting, as I told you, in a very intuitive way, but without understanding. Then that's the reason why I expressed myself like that. The second point that I understood is the illusion of equality or inequality that you can have when relating with your peers or with your bosses.
Very interesting point.
Very interesting because I come from a Latin culture, which is totally different from the US culture and from the European culture, and of course the Japanese culture. Then having all these fundamentals for me was very useful to understand the characteristics of the Latin culture to behave and communicate and work not only with Japanese, but also with all these other different cultures. And the most important, Yoshiko, that I want to share with you, that this cross-cultural training helped me to communicate in a better way as well with my connationals. because
not only Japanese, but with variety of nationalities.
exactly, included Mexicans, because the mistake, yes, the objectivity is the key point in communication with whomever. And sometimes the mistake that we make is that we think that everybody has the same background, the same values that you have, and that's not true.
That's true. We automatically assume.
Exactly, and that's not true even with your brother or your sisters that were raised in the same family, right? Then that was the second point that I understood. And the other point that I understood when I took this cross-cultural training course was the communication responsibility.
Responsibility.
Exactly. In our culture, I assume that the people that is speaking or writing has the responsibility to be understood by the others.
So responsibility to be understood.
Exactly, but this is not always the same. Sometimes we need to understand that the responsibility can be a burden of the listener, of the people that is reading. Then when you understand that there are these differences in communication, then you become very clear about the differences in very simple things. In our culture, in the Latin cultures, we are very loudly. We never stop speaking.
We enjoy talking.
Exactly, and joking, exactly. And we create very close relationships with our co-workers. We work during the whole week, and then on the weekends we can go to the cinema together, or we can go for a coffee or whatever. And we think that everybody should be the same, and that's not true. We are kissers and we are huggers every morning.
Yes, I know.
And we understand. We need to understand that other cultures don't see this as an appropriate behavior on work.
I see.
That's the reason why the cross-cultural training course was very helpful for me, because having this background of speaking, when you are in a meeting with a Japanese citizen and don't speak nothing, you don't have a feedback about the comments, you feel uncomfortable because you bring with all these values in your background to say that person is not taking care about what I'm saying. He is he is not interested in what I have just said.
Right, you are just interpreting in your own way.
Exactly, but that's not true. It means that probably that person is processing what I said. Then the most important thing, when I learned all these concepts, frankly speaking, my career started to be more easier and started to grow. Because at that,
the difference was so obvious.
I think so. And I was able to communicate with Japanese people here in Mexico, with Japanese people in Japan, but also to communicate in a better way with other cultures, not only, as I told you, Japanese, but also European and US or Canada colleagues. And the most important thing is that right now I'm in the position to train the younger generations to communicate in a proper way with our global colleagues. And this is a huge responsibility that I took very gladly, because I had the opportunity to have this cross-cultural training course in Japan.
I see. Thank you. What's wonderful. Then when you had the cross-cultural training in about the Japanese culture, you did it right after you entered the company or a few years after?
Unfortunately, it was a lot of years after.
I see.
As I told you, I
Mm.
joined the company when I was 23 years old.
Right, right.
The benefit for me at
Mm.
that time is that the company
Mm.
was not so globally operating,
I see.
and we had a very local operation and
Mm.
just reporting to a Japanese boss.
I see.
But after 15 years
Mhm.
of working for the company, I received this training course.
Mhm.
But it was exactly the time in which the company started to act in a more global way. Then it
I
was
see.
in a proper time when
Mm.
I received this training course
Mm.
to have the tools to communicate in a global way.
I see. I see. Interesting. So I'm asking the question of the other way around. I said, do you have colleagues from Japan in the Mexican operation?
Yes, that's right. I report
Mm.
directly to a Japanese officer,
Mm.
but I have peers
Mm.
uh, to to whom I work with in
Mm.
as a working team. Yes, I
I
have Japanese
I
colleagues
see.
here
I
in
see.
Mexico.
Do you help them to better understand Mexican culture?
Yes, of course, because I can understand that for them can be a little shocking when they
Mhm.
arrive to the Mexican
Mhm.
culture.
Mhm.
Uh, there are some things that we need to improve in our culture. We are
Mhm.
a little messy.
Mhm.
We have a different perception of time. For
Mhm.
instance, we know that for Japanese people, it's very important to schedule, to plan,
Mhm.
and we are more flexible in those terms. Then, for me, it's very important to support them when they arrive to Mexico, to explain that we have this different vision of the world, about the time, about the world.
Mhm.
If we say tomorrow I will call you, it means probably tomorrow I will call you.
It's very different from Japan.
Totally different. Yes, yes, but I need to explain to them that this is not
Yes.
unrespectful, or it doesn't mean nothing. This is the way that the Mexican, or in general the Latin
Right.
culture works.
I
Of
see.
course,
I
it
see.
doesn't mean that
Mm.
this is correct.
Mm.
I, as a global citizen, because fortunately I have had the chance to work in a global way, as I told you, um, I need to have this responsibility to try to change these concepts in Mexico, because we need to be at the same level of the developed economies and have
I see.
this
I see.
more concrete
I see. Mm.
planning and time management and
I
everything. Then I serve as a bridge for
Mm.
these Japanese
I see.
colleagues to
Yeah.
explain the
Right.
cultural differences as well.
Right. Wonderful. So the cross cultural training with Japan triggered you to open the eyes to other way of thinking, and now you are developing and utilizing it to be a bridge between Mexico and the rest of the industrialized economies.
That's correct. That's what we are doing, and I'm very happy that I had this opportunity. And you asked me if I received it at the beginning of my career.
Mm.
The answer, as I told you, is
Mm.
unfortunately no.
Mm.
Because if I had this opportunity at the beginning of my professional development, I think that my world would be easier and faster in
I
terms of
see.
growing and
I
development.
see. So do you recommend, I mean, the young people to take a cross-cultural training when as soon as possible if they want to work in international companies?
Absolutely. As I told you at the beginning of my conversation, there are three factors to be successful nowadays:
Mm.
business skills,
Mm.
English skills,
Mm.
and cross-cultural
Mm.
communication skills.
I see. Very
I
good.
don't see any other way to grow in this global world now.
Wonderful. So the English skills, business skills, and cross-cultural skills are three most important factors to be successful and work efficiently in a global company.
No other way possible. That's correct.
Thank you so much, Carolina. It's very, very useful, and I'm sure there are other people who want to work in the international company will appreciate your comments. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you very much to you, Yoshiko. Thank you.
Thank you. So,